As the title race heats up on the track, the temperatures also rise into the top level, with the relationship between Mercedes and other F1 teams becoming increasingly strained. Amidst all these cheating claims from other teams, Mercedes looks ever so confident in every game. This is raising suspicions about whether Mercedes and FIA are holding hands backstage. I mean, can we for a second think in this way? Look, F1 is influenced by the British, and Mercedes has two freaking British drivers. Any coincidence? I know there's a far possibility of this being true, but one can only think of the worst in the F1 world. Can we get a funny for a second and say the Mercedes team is one big acting crew and Lewis Hamilton has to get an Oscar for his performance? And if you're wondering how Lewis is involved in all this mess, then you have to stay tuned to the end of the video to find out. The seven-time world champion, gunning for his 8th title, is not happy to hear some accusing of his team or him of breaking the rules and cheating to win the title. One can lie with words, but it's pretty hard to lie with actions. If Lewis Hamilton truly believed that safety is the most important thing, then Mercedes would have been running their cars with higher ground clearance. Yet again, Lewis Hamilton is lying, which is what many think. Now, many top teams like Red Bull, Ferrari, and McLaren are surprised and suspecting as to how Mercedes happened to have an extra floor stay ready. Clearly, they must have had some inside information, right? Because the new rules were only announced on Thursday, and the next thing we know is Mercedes bringing it to the table. That's clearly impossible. A proposing law was framed to look out for drivers' long-term health and limit the risk of injury due to bouncing. As a metric was introduced by the F1, which measures the oscillation of the cars. So it is simple. The more the cars on the track bounce off its surface, the more the racer will get injured. To mitigate this, they have set a limit on how much the car can bounce off the surface. If an F1 team fails to follow this rule and maintain the bounce rate, they could get disqualified. Now, what has happened is that since F1 introduced this rule on such short notice, they have come up with something to steady the racer, and that is the permission for the F1 teams to add an extra floor. Now, what is suspicious is that Mercedes also had it ready. How is that possible? Because Lewis Hamilton's race car was already installed with an extra floor on Friday. And it's not just you and me, but according to Michael Smith of Automotor and Sport, 3 F1 top teams also find that rather odd. He said Ferrari, Red Bull, and McLaren are not only upset that the FIA is changing the rules in the middle of the season and allowing for a second underbody support, but they also openly question how Mercedes had such a stay and attachment to the chassis and floor on hand in just one day. A Mercedes spokesman said that the team had left some people behind at Berkeley ready. Guess what for? They were gone for a late-night call-out with an extra part. They clarified, "We had people who flew late to Montreal and took the material with them. Because of our problems with the ground, we were prepared for anything in terms of the stays." But much to Mercedes' dismay, the second one didn't work out as expected. Speaking about the rule change, F1 said that they would be using the Canadian Grand Prix in order to measure the bouncing of the teams. This means that new rules will not be put to use before the British Grand Prix in a fortnight. But clearly, Mercedes didn't seem to listen to that, right? Or did they want to boost off? A spokesperson for the governing body told the race, "The technical directive does not specifically state that the metric will be applied for this race. It is felt that the complexity of establishing that metric from all the data from the different cars is not going to be an overnight job. There will be a careful full analysis of the data gathered this weekend, and any application of it will be appropriate to whatever arises from the analysis." Many F1 teams have stated that there's been no clear indication from the FIA as to what the bouncing parameters are. That's true. They pondered, who dares to say that the 7G or 8G is the limit? There is no expertise whatsoever as to what is still acceptable and what isn't. But other teams, such as Red Bull, have not encountered proposing problems while Mercedes has faced them. Red Bull advisor Dr. Helmut Marko therefore said that it is Mercedes themselves who will put themselves in this mess, so they need to get out of it themselves without the FIA's help. The Austrian said there's no need for action. If you have a problem, you should put your car higher. Lewis Hamilton said that the W13 now feels worse than before after he ended FP2 on the 13th. Amidst all the protestations, Mercedes did little to improve the ride of their car, and this clearly has upset their driver, Lewis Hamilton. Lewis Hamilton's back pain at the recent race has been rejected by thousands of Formula One fans. Well, they have claimed they do not feel sorry for the 7-time champion. That might come as a shocker for many of you, right? Does it not feel so weird to see the Mercedes star visibly shaken? This was after the race, and he appeared to be struggling to get out of his car. After the race, he claimed he spent the race biting into his teeth in pain and said he would be praying for the race to end. However, most of the 5,000 Express sports readers, amounting to 55.3%, revealed they had no sympathy for Hamilton's pain. Whoa, who would have expected this? And who do they think they are fooling, for a matter of fact? Many fans have picked on this, and a user, So Invictus, commented, "On Thursday, the FIA changed the rules ruling the proposing issue, where they also allowed a second tie rod on the floor previously not allowed by the rules. Friday, the day after, Mercedes immediately had at disposal a floor with the double tie rod. To put an additional tie rod on a carbon fiber floor takes from 56 to 70 hours of work. Firstly, because you can't make a hole on a carbon fiber floor as you make a hole in your car. Otherwise, if the carbon is drilled, it usually will start to crack, and its whole structure is compromised. Secondly, you can't put a second tie rod randomly. There's a measurement at the CFD to do regarding how and where to put them, based on the floor flexibility and bending resistance. Conclusion, Wolff said that they added the second tie rod during the night. It's a lie. Indeed, Mercedes had a spy in the FIA that informed MB what FIA would have done regarding the proposing, and they immediately put a new floor with the double tie rod. That's called collusion and hosting and cheating. The championship is de facto false at this point, and the FIA credibility is zero. Hamilton's statement can be taken a third way, right? Because he didn't slow himself but waited until the other racers slowed down. To add on, we can't brush this off since many find it very strange that the FIA makes a rule change and Team Mercedes just happens to have the newly fabricated parts on hand. Something's fishy in the FIA world. What do you guys think? Does the team have 3D printers? Or is it more just a 3D printed mold? Let us know what you think in the comments below. And that's all for this video. Thanks for watching. If you have enjoyed the video, consider leaving a like and subscribe to the channel for more crazy updates on F1.